Um, yeah, okay. Let me first start the YouTube thing, and then I will start telling what I'm talking about. Yes, now it works. Fantastic. Yep. History of alcohol part two. It works. Yes. So welcome everybody to today's history lesson. My name is Tomek. I'm from Berlin, Germany, and I do in-person tours in Berlin. So I want you to come to Berlin. And since the pandemic, I also do some stuff on Zoom and YouTube and Instagram. So if you want to watch about the history of Jehovah's Witnesses, you can go on my YouTube channel. Here you have to search for at History of JW. Right now, it's also live streamed on YouTube. So if you want to watch it on the big screen, you can also go there. If you want to be updated about future tours, you can scan this QR code. I will show this QR code also later. And then I will send always in this WhatsApp group more information about that. Um, yeah, I love doing what I do. It's great. It's fantastic, and everything what I do is also thanks to your help. So everything is donated, or is everything is based on donation. I made a picture of my dog while my wife is shaving the dog, so you can see the dog is not really happy. I thought, hey, I need to make a picture of that, how she's hanging there. Okay, it makes no sense to fight. I just be there. So if you want to support the whole thing and future tours, feel free to do it on my website to donate. I will also show you later more how you can do that. Basically, most important thing is if you just visit the website historyofjw.tools, then you will see also enough possibilities how you can donate. But as I said, I focus on the history of Jehovah's Witnesses, not today. Not today. Sometimes I just want to tell you something different, something historically different. Not always talking about Death March, not talking only about the concentration camp, which is very important. I love to talk about that, about the concentration camp, not because I love the concentration camp. No, no, it's because the history of Jehovah's Witnesses during the Nazi time and during the communist time in East Germany, it's an encouraging history because they proved how to act and they proved the Nazis wrong and the communists wrong. So that's why I love to talk and research and so on. But as I said, sometimes I read a book, sometimes I watch a documentary or something, and then I say, hey, this is so interesting. I want to tell also to you. So that's how it started with the history of drunkenness. I got also a lot of questions. What's my basis? So my 80%, what I told you last time and what today part two, is based on the book Mark Forsyth, A Little History of Drunkenness. It's a great book. I really recommend that. Please buy it if you want to know more. It's really, really interesting. So we will do this tour, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Maybe we work a break. No, no break. No break. And after that, you can ask questions, right? So I would say, let's start the tour. Please enjoy. Of course, please remember it's history. What I want to do is to make history interesting, right? So I don't encourage anybody to drink to alcohol. No, it's just about science and history about that. And if you like to drink a wine, do it. If you don't like, don't do it. Last time I got a beer. Today I will not because, yeah, I hope I would tell everything right today because there's a lot of talking today. Let's do a short and very fast recap of last time. So we talked about alcohol and we talked how the alcohol has an impact on our mind, right? It's on our synapse and neurons. We talked how many of them there. What I liked is the RGRP neuron. And the amazing thing is when you drink alcohol, this neuron is activated, but that's the neuron that you normally is activated when you got hungry. So that's why after you're leaving the pub, you always want to eat because of that. So this is what we talked about. We talked about here Benjamin Franklin. Wine is a constant proof that God loves us and loves to see us happy. Why not? This is what he said. We will talk more about another American president, an old one, not actual old ones. So we talked from the beginning. We talked of when it started. One interesting thing is that beer in the Sumerian language, cash. So beer was used as a payment, um, definitely for sure. And there were different kind of gods. Almost every religion we talked, or every country we talked about, um, like yeah, Sumer, Egypt, all of them had a main god and also a god about responsible for alcohol. We talked about also Greece, right? The Dionysus and so on. We talked how they got drunk and if the Greeks do this, so the Romans were not better. They also had different gods and also were drinking too much. Then, of course, we talked about Germany, right? So Germany is outside or was outside the Roman Empire. We talked how the coolest thing that I thought was that they got drunk and then they made a decision, let's go for war or let's have peace, whatever. And then after that, when they got sober, they discussed this topic again. And if it's the same decision like when they were drunk, it's a good decision. In vino veritas, that's their thinking. Then we talked about yeah the Catholic Church, the monastery, the monks, Saint Benedict, and how they yeah made beer or something like a beer, right? Ale if I have it, water if I have no ale. So alcohol was very very important, or beer because it was cooked right, and it was less dangerous. Beer was less dangerous than water. Then we talked about the Vikings, um, the influence of the Vikings in whole Europe. They were on the coast and mostly on England. And the difference between the Vikings and all the other nations and the religion is that Odin, the main god, is also the god of alcohol. So everything in the Vikings' life was centered on ale. And on the end, so they always got drunk. And on the end, when you die, you will be in paradise, right? Valhalla. And what you will do there, you will drink with Odin and all your friends and enemies that you killed. So everything is focused on alcohol. And that's why, yeah, England, right? That's why England was drinking a lot. And we talked about that brewing was the woman's job. So the first pubs, something you can call it pub, was run by women, which is pretty interesting. And we talked about the hops. That was the end. And yeah, this is what we talked about last time. And I told you that part two will be about the gin problem and how America and Australia was born. So let's see. Let's see if I can prove to you. Um, no spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers. No spoilers. Okay. So let's start with part two. And if this was too fast for part one, please go on YouTube, watch it on streaming. You can watch part one again. So we have to talk now about spirits. And if I say spirits, I'm not talking about ghosts or angels or whatever. No, we talk about spirits. we talk about hard alcohol. We don't talk about beer anymore. Now we talk about pure alcohol. And so some things we don't really know. So the one thing is that in the year 800, in the 800, we have an Arab chemic, who, yeah, as we know, Jabi in Hayyan was probably the very first guy who made alcohol thanks to chemistry. He could create or yeah, worked on that distilled alcohol. But the problem is they're chemics, right? So they were not really interested in drinking it. It was more for science stuff and also medicine. But then we read in the 12th century about the soldiers, English soldiers of Henry II. They're plundering a monastery in Ireland, and they found some barrels, and it was an unidentified drink that burned their throats and got them very fast, very drunk. So could be hard alcohol, right? Spirits. We don't know. We don't really know. It would make sense, right? We talked last time that the monasteries were, right, the centers of science and drinking. So maybe they were working hard to to drink as much and get drunk as fast as possible. So it could be that. Um, in the year 1495, so just 3 years after a guy called Christopher Columbus sailed west to India, the King of Scotland, James IV, he bought several barrels of whiskey, or I like that. It was not called whiskey at that time. It was called aqua vitale. That's nice. Aqua vitale, the water of life, right? The water of life. In Polish, we say for water, voda. In Russian, the same, voda. But you know the Polish and Russian drink vodka, right? Vodka. This is waterly. This is the cute water. So aqua of vitale. So there were some spirits, and 100 years later, after that, there was one bar, one pub in whole England, just outside of London, that served that aqua vitale. So this is like a very fast explaining of distilling. It started at that time researching and doing well, what it is, what they can do with this. And of course, the world will get a problem. Let's learn some languages. Let's learn French. Genève. Geneva. Geneva is a city in Switzerland. The goddess Geneva, Madame Geneva, has nothing to do with Switzerland. No, it's an old French word. And you can see from the Normans also used a very similar. Then the Middle Dutch and the Dutch also used Geneva, Geneva, and it became with a J, and the same way is also in English. And you know what? I wanted, but I forgot to check how you spell that in English, the last word. Could somebody help me? Could please raise your hand and I will give you the voice. I'm really wondering how you spell that English word. This this in German it's Wacholder. So I just want to know how you know or not spell how you no how you say it. Yeah. Could somebody say this for me, please? Laronda.
I would think it's as pronounced Ginevra.
Okay, Geneva. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so it's pretty like the French. Okay, I think we all know what it is, right? It's tree. We will talk about this later, but because we have here English, we have now to talk about the history of England. And because it's a history of alcohol, I will try to make it as fast as possible and as easy as possible to explain to you the history of England. I think that makes sense, right? Okay. Bad joke. Bad joke. Okay. Okay, that's not easy. That's not easy. So these are the kings and queens of England, different colors, different dates. How can we make this easy? First of all, left side Catholic, done. Okay, we have Catholics. We don't talk about them, and we don't talk about them. Let's focus on the guy. Let's focus on a guy that we have here. I have the German words. It's Henry the Eighth. Henry the Eighth. That's pretty known and important guy in history. He um, want to get divorced. The Pope says nope. So Henry says, no problem, I create my own church, the Church of England, and I will be the master of the Church of England, and I can do what I want to do. So I'm still Christian, and in the Church of England, you can get divorced. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Which is a little bit weird because he wanted to get divorced because his wife did not give him a son that he needs as a king, right? He needs a son. So he gets divorced, and on the end, he still killed all the wives that he had who don't give him a son. Weird guy. Weird guy. Um, and in funny thing, on the end, no son became the next king. It was Elizabeth, right? Elizabeth the first. Here we go. We have she became the first queen, first female ruler of England. But that's a different story. That's a different story. So we got this guy. So things change in England. Now we have a woman and the Protestants, and now Spain is fighting, and there are a lot of things about the Armada, and there's also God's name involved in that. But that's not the topic of today. Maybe another day. Now we will talk about Carl or Charles, Charles the First. So what's happening is that this guy has a huge problem. There is a civil war in England. Oliver Cromwell, maybe you heard about that, and nothing's working. And in the meantime, while England is fighting against each other, the French drink brandy, and the Dutch, they drink Geneva. So the civil war don't works well. Um, hmm, yeah, here we go. These guys are very close. The next kings are very close now with with France, right? So they're French. England had French kings. France had English kings. Long story. But the English, not the British, the English did not like that they have French close kings, so they want a new one, and the new king, it's William the Third. And you see it's a different color, that guy. It's just only him, because it's William from Orange. William is from the Netherlands. He's a Dutch. And what do the Dutch? They drink something made out of, or they put inside that drink, Geneva. Geneva, right? There are different kinds of that tree. There's a special kind of taste. What is it? It's gin. Dry gin, London dry gin. So the Dutch are drinking a new alcohol, something completely new, made of grains and taste like Geneva, and it's called dry gin. And now William is coming, and is now the King of England. And if you know a little bit England, you know that gin is very popular in England. So we have to ask the question why gin became popular in England. For reasons that Mark Fawcett is giving, which I really liked. First reason is monarchy, second reason soldiers, third reason religious war, and fourth reason is the end of world hunger. All right, let's talk about the first one. King William III liked gin because he was Dutch, and all Dutch people like gin. So I'm the king. Let's make gin popular. Second, soldiers. What kind of soldiers? Dutch soldiers. Dutch soldiers like gin, right? Because they're Dutch. And also, they because when they drink gin, when they were drunk by gin, they get a form of bravery, right? They became brave, and I think, please prove me wrong, I think in England it's called Dutch courage. So that's why Dutch courage, because I don't know if they say this also in America, I don't know. Because these Dutch soldiers got drunk with gin and did stuff and fight for whatever. Okay, third, religious war. So um, there were in Europe so many crazy wars: 7 Years' War, 100 Years' War, 30 Years' War. And interesting that so in that period, in whole Europe was always war. And who is fighting against who? And that's you can make it very complicated if you use the nations and the states and whatever, or you can make it very easy if you just say it's the Catholics against the Protestants. So in Germany, when I went to school, my history teacher always explained, okay, now is this guy fighting that guy, and it was, man, this is so weird. We missed it. But no, it's very easy. It's just the Catholics fighting the Protestants, or the Protestants fighting the Catholics. An interesting thing is that English is Protestant, right? Henry VIII, Church of England, Elizabeth, and the Dutch are also Protestant. So English soldiers fought alongside the Dutch. And when they fought alongside the Dutch, they did not only fought, they also drank alongside the Dutch. And they had together a hangover and a taste for gin. So that's why gin is something for soldiers and also something for Protestants. But the last reason is end to world hunger. End to world hunger. Does this isn't a little bit world hunger still exists? But please remember what time we are. 1688. Every country in the world had a problem with bad harvests, right? So how does it look like? How life for farmers was at that time? In a normal year, farmers produced enough grain to feed everybody, right? Normal, works. And they did not produce more because if they would produce more, they could not sell it. They could not use it. So it works. Equal, done. Great. But unfortunately, in this world, as even so often, you got a year with a bad harvest, right? So when this happened, there wasn't enough grain to sell, right? But the farmers were not really angry about that. Why not? Why it was not a problem for the farmers? Economics. I love economics because for me, economics is very, very stupid. It's always fight against something, right? There's an inflation you have to fight against. There's a deflation you fight against. If it's up, it can't be too good. It can't be too bad. It's always money is never happy. If you have too much money, it's not good. If you have not enough money, it's not good. Money is never happy. Economics are never happy. So if there was a bad harvest, which means less grain means higher grain prices, right? And this higher prices means that the farmer made the same much of money from a bad harvest as he did from a good one, and he have to work less. Yeah. But the problem is, if the farmer was happy that, okay, great, I don't have to work much and I still get the same money, and he got food because he's the farmer, but the people who suffered from bad harvest were the poor one and the needy, and also the government. Why? Yeah, because the government suffered most of all. Yeah, the poor and the needy starts to write and start to talk to the government and say, oh, we don't like that. So, how to stop that? William III, the Dutch guy, has a great idea. He had an idea how to solve that problem. Gin. So gin is made out of grain, right? So from that grain, you create this with the distillation process, you create that alcohol. Vodka is also made the same. You can make vodka from grain, also from potatoes. Um, a sake is made from rice, right? So you you got this idea. Okay. So and also in his thinking, the quality of the grain is not important. Today, if you want a good one, it's important. Okay. So his idea, okay, when you made it, when you fermented, when distilled, great. You can taste the difference. And then you can put this Geneva inside. Fantastic. So his idea was if he could make gin popular in England, he would produce a great big market for excess grain during normal years. And that means that when a bad harvest come around, there would be an excess to cover it, right? It would be not the highest quality, but it would be edible. So thus he could end starvation forever. That's the idea. So he has to make gin really, really popular. How to make gin popular? Not just because the king is, oh, that's also important that the king was drinking and the soldiers and everything, but it must be better, easier available than beer, right? We talked last time, pops, ale, beer, hops, whey, fantastic breweries. So let's make gin more popular. What about make it completely tax-free? Oh, that's a great idea. What about to make it unregulated, right? What about let anybody who wants to start distilling, let them distill? Fantastic idea. Yeah, fantastic. Of course, you ban everything that's coming from France, right? The brandy, ban the brandy, and if you're a good English king, you already have a war against France, so definitely there will nothing come there. So this is what he did. Anybody who wants to make brandy, gin, could make brandy. So they could use that grain, and if a bad year will come or a bad harvest, they will have enough of that because they were producing so much. Fantastic idea. And one city in that case is very, very, very important. London. London is something special. Is it? It is. It's not a joke. It is. It is definitely. You have to remember this. How life works at that time in villages, in small. And if you live in a small village, I'm talking about small village, then you know one thing that everybody knows everything about everybody, right? That's how I know that from Poland. It's a very interesting theory. The theory is already 20 years old, so maybe it could change the last years. But the theory was that the scientists realized, or yeah, that in Poland is less depression, less um, um, suicides, and less how it's called in English. This very bad thing when people take a gun and killing so many people, right? Got frustrated and killing in schools, something like that. This don't happen in Poland. So the question is why? Because everybody knows everything about everybody. I remember that as a kid. There were you walk the road, and the massacre said you walk the road, and there were always grandmoms, old women sitting on the window, taking a look what's happening and commenting, and they were interested in that. Of course, this sounds now bah, I don't like that, but there's one good thing about that. They knew if a neighbor was not seen for a few days, they checked out why. So you can't be alone, you can't be lonely because this woman wants to know what's going on in your life. So there's a good side of that. And that's also in small villages, right? People talk together, they knew each other. And if somebody gets really, really drunk, if somebody became a drunker, oh, that's a shame. Everybody know, right? Everyone, oh, wow. And they look at the wife and they look at the kids. So you have to behave in a village. You because everybody and you also they help each other and you have the church and yeah. What about London? London is different. London is different. You have to know that at that time there were in England two cities that had more than 20,000 inhabitants. Only two who had more than 20,000 people living in that city. London had at that time 600,000. See the difference? Biggest city in the world, 600,000. And there's gold on London, right? Everybody was telling in the villages, if you go to London, you get rich. Gold is everywhere. Man and woman can become rich. Hello. So everybody's going to London. And if you live in a city where 600,000 people live, how high is the chance that you will meet your neighbor? Or how high is the chance that you will meet somebody who knows you? Nope. In London, you can dress like a gentleman, and everybody will think you are a gentleman. If you do this in your village, everybody, yeah. But no, no, oh yeah, he's a gentleman. Great guy, fantastic. So everything was possible in London, but also to become very, very poor. With richness comes also a huge problem. So now everybody or more and more people are drinking gin in that big city, right? And interesting that gin probably at that time was double alcohol than it has today. So we have right now 37.5 milligrams in gin. At that time was around 80. That's brutal. That's brutal. And people were drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking too much. So because people saw that, or because this is happening, they try to change it, right? They try to change. Here we have just a few years later, we have the first ban. Just 40 years. Gin exists in London or in England or in London became so famous, and just 30 years later, we have ordered a ban. William is not there anymore, right? Done. Go. Okay. And what kind of ban does work? So let's do high taxes. But the people has great ideas. Puss and Mugen. Look at that. Take a better look on that. So because people wants to get this gin, they had also ideas how to avoid all these laws. And one idea was that they had the signs of this cat, the now illegal. Before that was not regulated, right? Everybody can make gin. So suddenly they say, okay, go on, what's the problem? 20 years ago, everybody could do, and now you have a big problem. So people were still, and there were mafias, there were mobs killing snitches who were telling to the police where gin is made. So crazy, crazy. So because there will be not no official gin pubs anymore, so you have a cat, right? And somebody is walking on the road and it makes this pussy, 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 the sound to get a kitten. And then the guy inside the building says meow, meow. And you see this? And out of the in the wall, the um the tail of the cat was not a real tail, it was to serve gin. So people still could get gin. Was it really so bad what happened in London? Does they really had to ban this? Yes. Gin had changed the British society very, very brutal. Um, I have some stories. So these are some paintings or from that time. This is called the Beer and Gin Street. And some stories are very crazy. So we're not sure if everything is true. But let's talk about first how much they drank. It's a pint. How much is a pint? It's a half liter, 500 milliliters. Don't ask me how much this is in the weird American. It's a lot. It's a whole bottle. Remember, 80 milligrams. How could they drink this? How could they drink half a liter of 80 milligram of alcohol, which contains 80 milligrams of alcohol, and not die? They could not. They died. They literally died. There's a story I found in 1741. They made a bet and say, hey, if you drink three or four, you will get all of us will give you a penny. And he drank this three, and then he died. It's impossible, and you die. And also, um, and so drinking really became out of control. We have here, for example, we have here a woman, right? So let's talk first about boys. So here we have a very interesting. You can see the man is a drunkard, drinking too much gin. The people are very poor. The cat don't have to drink anything, to eat anything. The wife has to sell stuff from the house because there's no money. That's why, yeah, people where you say here, why is gin better than water, right? You see how people who drink gin, how they look like, and people who drink water, how they look like. But there's also another story about a woman. The problem is that gin, that remember the breweries started with women, right? Women were brewing beer, ale, beer, but they're no, not really drinking it. They were making with this. And if you remember that, it was not always so really good, right? But gin became the king is drinking it. So I'm drinking the same drink that the king is drinking, that the kings and the Dutch kings, the Netherlands, they drinking. So also more and more women were drinking. It was this cosmopolitan, this flair, this is something, I'm somebody. But they became it was awful. So they tried to convince that especially to get drunk is something that only men should, and the men are so proud of it, and it's our right to get drunk and not yours. Yeah. So the men were not happy that the woman get drunk. So they're writing stuffs why it's so bad. And for example, they were saying, hey, if you're drunk, then you commit adultery and then you will get pregnant. How interesting. 300 years ago. Yep. Alcohol can do some bad stuff. Then they were saying, and gin is destroying the babies, which is right, right? Alcohol you should not drink when you're pregnant. And when they get these babies, the babies will be very sick and look weird, which is true. It can be. If it's alcohol definitely destroys cells of the baby already, and then when you got the babies, then you will become bad mothers and you become bad nannies, and it's true. And it's true. Alcohol, there's a weird story. There's a very, very weird story that I read where two women were drinking too much, and especially this were poor woman, very, very poor woman, where the husband or the father, whatever, left her alone, and somehow she tries to survive, and because drinking too much, yeah, the kids died because she forgot her in the winter and stuff like that. So they realized they realized that this gin is doing a lot of bad things, and that's why they made all these bans and this high taxes and tried to stop this epidemic of gin in the biggest city of the world. So yeah, great idea is taxes, right? But still, with the cats, nothing worked. How did it stop? How did it stop? How the epidemic of gin in England stopped? William III, 1750, something happened. A series of bad harvests. So now, 60 years later, this grain shortages that William III had planned for 60 years before finally came to pass. And and there was still enough to make bread for everyone. It was a miracle, you can say. And if you were not that, because you drank too much or were not completely destroyed by a gin had done its job. The craze, the epidemic was past. 60 years. So the idea was not bad that he had, right? It saved a lot of lives, 1750, but it destroyed a lot of lives. Gin had changed the British society. And what's interesting, the poor people always existed, and in that world will always exist. But now something happened. Now the change of the society is that the ones who were not poor, they could see now the urban poor, right? And they were scared of them. It was, the drinking, the lawlessness, the disrespect for law, the organization into mobs. Gin created a visible underclass on the pavements of London, and the people, the rich one, did not like that. And that's if you want to get rid of the poor, you can deport them to another continent. And that's how America and Australia were born. Let's talk first about Australia. Australia was meant to be a dry colony. Let's make it short. Let's make it very short. So you got this poor people in England. You got this drunkards, right? This old bad people that the society was talking about. Let's get rid of them. Let's send them all to a place we just found as far as possible on the other side of the globe, Australia. Nobody is allowed to drink alcohol in Australia. Yeah, except the soldiers, right? Because it would be difficult that all these British soldiers who are serving for Queen and King and country and then going there and for so many time and so yeah, of course they can drink. What can happen? Just make happen that they also get drunk and that they will make money and they made money and then because they made money they were fighting and there's the Lord called his name is Sydney and yeah, in the end, if you know Australian people, there was then a rum rebellion, and who can have this rum, who is allowed to do this, and as I said, so when we have football championships, world championships in Germany, and we have Australian people here, so there are two people that German hard drinking people are afraid of. That's English and Australian. Because unfortunately in Germany they are known for really hard drinkers. So it didn't work. It didn't really work. What about the United States? Yeah, so we could talk a lot about the United States. We could talk about the prohibition. We could talk about the saloon, right? When you watch all these Clint Eastwood or how could I forget his name? John Wayne movies, these cool guys in the saloons, always having a gun and verify that, and then drinking and getting this. Nothing. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. And the saloon was also banned very fast because the woman didn't like that. So I thought if we talk about the United States of America and alcohol, I will give you just one story because I think that explains everything. In the year 1797, the largest distillery in America produced 11,000 gallons of whiskey a year. It was owned by the great distiller of early America, a man called George Washington. George Washington's life, his story, is extraordinary. And before he became a whiskey magnate, he had, and that's a fact, something of a career in politics and even in military. We don't have to talk about that. But the interesting thing is that when George Washington wants to get in the office and he says, okay, let's start the elections, he lost. But after that, he tries again. He handed out free booze to all the voters and he won. That's the story of alcohol inside the United States. If you know what the voters want, give it to them, and you win the election. It started with the very first president of the United States and will go on forever as all politics. So I was thinking how to finish, how to, because yes, we could talk about Russia, right? Of course, we should talk about Russia. But I thought that's too obvious, right? The Russians, Peter the Great, and everything vodka. It's too obvious. There are prohibitions, as I said. And no, I decided, I decided to read you some quotes from my two favorite writers. The one is George Orwell. I love the book 1984. And the other one is the French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And his book is my favorite book, The Little Prince. Let's start with George Orwell. Um, I have here a German and English version, The Animal Farm. And yeah, I will read to the beginning, the very first paragraph in George Orwell's Animal Farm, Chapter 1. Mr. Jones of the Manor Farm had locked the hen houses for the night, but was too drunk to remember to shut the pop holes. With a ring of light from his lantern dancing from side to side, he lurched across the yard, kicked off his boots in the back door, drew himself a last glass of beer from the barrel in the scullery, and made his way up to bed, where Mrs. Jones was already snoring. What do we learn about Mr. Jones? The very first thing is he's a drunkard. We don't like him. And the animals also don't like him, right? So if you know that story, you know what I'm talking about. If not, read it. Great. Fantastic. It's a fantastic story. So the animals meet together and they're discussing and they're saying, we are not happy. And it's a long speech. It's a very, very long speech. Comrades, always talking about comrades. And I would like, um, here, the last, the last thing, right? Yes. Yeah, here it is. Okay. The vote was so after the whole speech, there's a vote. The vote, so the questions are rats, comrades. The vote was taken at once and it was agreed by an overwhelming majority that rats were comrades. Comrades. There were only four dissentents, the three dogs and the cat, who was afterwards discovered to have voted on both sides. Major continued. Major is, yeah, read it. I have little more to say. I merely repeat, remember always your duty of enmity towards man and all his ways. Whatever goes upon two legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon four legs or has wings is a friend. And remember also that in fighting against man, we must not come to resemble him. Even when you have conquered him, do not adopt his vices. No animal must ever live in a house, or sleep in a bed, or wear clothes, or drink alcohol, or smoke tobacco, or touch money, or engage in trade. All the habits of men are evil. And above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind, weak or strong, clever or simple. We are all brothers. No animal must ever kill any other animal. All animals are equal. And then you read the story, and the end is of that book, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And suddenly the pigs start to walk on two legs. And this is what happened. That evening, loud laughter and bursts of singing came from this, really the end of the book, from the farmhouse. So they get rid of Mr. Jones. Sorry for that. So they get rid of Mr. Jones and the animals are running the place. And what's happening now? And then not everybody's happy. The pigs are happy. But yeah, read it. That evening, loud laughter and bursts of singing came from the farmhouse. And suddenly, at the sound of the mingled voices, the animals were stricken with curiosity. What could be happening in there? Now that for the first time animals and human beings were meeting on terms of equality. With one accord, they began to creep as quietly as possible into the farmhouse garden. At the gate, they paused, half frightened to go on, but Clover led the way in. They tiptoed up to the house, and such animals as were tall enough peered in at the dining room window. There, round the long table, sat half a dozen farmers and half a dozen of the more eminent pigs. Napoleon himself occupying the seat of honor at the head of the table. The pigs appeared completely at ease in their chairs. The company had been enjoying a game of cards, but had broken off for the moment, evidently, in order to drink a toast. A large jug was circulating, and the mugs were being refilled with beer. No one noticed the wondering faces of the animals that gazed in the window. It starts with alcohol and it ends with alcohol. But my favorite, Maria, that's my favorite book beside the Bible. That's my favorite, The Little Prince of Saint-Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. It's a fantastic, great. It's not a book for kids. You can read it for kids, but they will not understand it, or they will like it. But as an adult, you will understand what's talking about. So, the Little Prince is he has a problem. The Little Prince is living on a planet. On the planet, he has volcanoes that are working or not working. He has a rose, and here there's also living a tiger. And the problem is, so it's a fiction story, right? And the problem is that the rose is not happy, so he now is traveling from planet to planet to find a place for the rose where the rose can survive. And on the end, he ends up on Earth, right? And it's meeting the writer. But interesting is when he's traveling from planet to planet, he meets people. So each planet is only living one person. And this people that the writer is describing, it's talking about, yeah, it's human. It's how the society works. And chapter 12, it's a very short one. I would like to read this to you. The next planet was inhabited by a drunkard. This visit was very short, but it deeply saddened the little prince. What are you doing? He asked the drunkard, who was sitting silently in front of a collection of bottles, some empty and some full. I'm drinking, replied the drunkard gloomily. Why do you drink? The little prince asked. To forget, replied the drunkard. To forget what? Inquired the little prince, who already felt sorry for him. To forget that I am ashamed, confessed the drunkard, hanging his head. Ashamed of what? Asked the little prince, who wanted to help him. Ashamed of drinking, ended the drunkard, withdrawing into a permanent silence. And the little prince left, puzzled. Grown-ups really are very strange, mused the little prince as he continued on his travels. And that's the end of today's short history lesson, the history of alcohol or drunkenness. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. And before we go on to the question and answer section, again, please let me show you my website and or the address of my website if you want to be informed about future tours. Please join on my WhatsApp group. How you can do this: take your phone, go on WhatsApp. It's pretty easy. I'll show you. You take your phone, go into WhatsApp. Then in WhatsApp you have here this camera symbol. Click on that camera symbol, and then just don't make a picture. Just go with the camera symbol on that QR code, and then you will be automatically put into my WhatsApp group. Join the WhatsApp group. Oh, here I got already one person. Join that WhatsApp group, and inside that WhatsApp group, I will send you the next topics, the next no, discussions, the next days, when will be the next tour. Then very next one is the next Sunday. The next Sunday. Let me I give you time here to do that, and in the meantime, I show you. I have in that WhatsApp group a calendar. Here we go. So the 27th of January is the day when Auschwitz was liberated. So I thought, I know it's crazy because I did not finish it and it's a very complicated tour. So the next week will be a hard work. And it's the 80th and the 80th anniversary, right? 80 years ago, Auschwitz got liberated. So I thought we have to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses in Auschwitz. Definitely. I have some videos on YouTube already, but I will do now a little bit more, right? On that tour. On the 26th, we will remember Jehovah's Witnesses in Auschwitz. It's too important. It's too important that date, the 80th, to miss that. This year is it's in Germany. It's about everything about the Nazi time, the end of the Nazi time, because yeah, everything will be the 80 years. The death march will be 80 years. The liberation of Sachsenhausen, 80 years. Everything. The memorial will be there, right? So next meeting is on Sunday. I always have the same Zoom. I always have the same passcode, and I always try to make it at the same time, 5 p.m. New York time. Always the same time, always the same Zoom, always the same passcode. So we see us next week, Sunday. And then I also have, right, where is it? Here. Let's make history fun again. Every second and then every fourth of Monday, different topics. I don't know yet what we will talk about next week. Maybe, maybe also again a little bit Auschwitz. I don't know because it's an important day, 80 years. I'm not sure. So we talk Sunday about Auschwitz and Monday something about history that I want to share with you. And because I said also 80 years, um, if you want to come to Germany, I'm giving an in-person tours for 15 people from the 17th to the 24th of June. If you don't go to international, whatever, if you want to join, please join because the last day that we will have this tour, the 24th of June, we will uh, be there in Berlin together when a huge memorial will be put in the middle of the city to remember Jehovah's Witnesses as the resistance against the Nazis. So please think about that. If you want to join, please write me as soon as possible, right? Because there are not so many spots left anymore. If you can't do this, the idea is also to maybe do so I have this private tour maximum 7 people. That's much more expensive because I need to yeah, spend more for the transportation and everything. The idea is, and it's maximum 7 people. If there will be 7 people, you can come on the 23rd already, and on the 24th you would join with the train group, also this inauguration of the memorial. So think about that. Would be great if we could. It would be my first time to do a big tour. I did a lot of tours, but never with 15 people alone. I did with Stalin, right? 40 people. And this will happen again, definitely. Who knows when, but will definitely happen. But think about that if you wanna join that. And last thing again, if you want to support, um, go on my website. There's a button called donation. There's a button about yeah, buy me a coffee. Any help, any support from your side is very, very welcome and needed. So before we go also to the how it's called question answer, I will stop the YouTube recording, but first maybe I can maybe this. Okay, if you want, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so a lot of thanks. Very great. What is your website? Okay, again, what is my website? Here we go. Here it is. History of JW.tours. History of JW.tours. History of JW.tours. Okay, so everybody who is on YouTube right now, thank you for joining on YouTube. If you want to listen to the question answer, please come here on Zoom, right? Please come here on Zoom. You have the Zoom, and then where you can join the question answer section. So I will stop right now the YouTube thing, so everybody